So, for the most part, superhero and comic book movies alike are a fantastic example of filmmaking gone wrong. In an industry that has been dominated by corporate greed, which deters creativity and original storytelling in favor of popularity and profit, it's very hard to find a film that is as well done as Pixar's The Incredibles. In short, superhero movies have been a notoriously reliable source of garbage for the entertainment market as a whole, doing a very good job of reducing fleshed out characters and powerful themes to the unstoppable man is once again stopped by a forgettable villain and just rehashed over and over with a fresh paint every single time. But, as is always the case, there are plenty of diamonds in the rough to be found. Now, why are movies important right now, and why should anybody care about this? I think that's an easy question, especially in today's ever-digitizing world. We constantly find ourselves turning to movies and film as a way of engagement and entertainment, often in favor of books. And I would argue that movies are stories brought to life in a way that's even more engaging than a book ever could be. Now, I wasn't allowed to play video games as a kid, and I often didn't watch the popular TV shows like iCarly and Avatar: The Last Airbender. I preferred to spend my time watching movies. In addition, I took a film history course. I love to watch and analyze films in my free time, and I've even written a 15-minute speech about The Dark Knight for a public speaking class in high school. On top of that, I'm one of those guys who, if you ask me what the greatest movie of all time is, I'm gonna go on an anecdotal rant about how there is no greatest movie and they are all amazing in their own individual way. But there's a reason that 2004 changed my hobbies and livelihood and apparent lack of social skills for the good, and that is The Incredibles. Now, I can't possibly hope to explain everything that I love about this movie and why I think that is the closest Pixar has come to perfection in 10 minutes. That would be an offense to movie nerds everywhere. But I can and will expand on why a relatable story featuring compelling characters, a perfectly balanced tone, and brilliant technical work are just some of the reasons why this flick stands tall above the competition. And the first part that I want to highlight is the writing. The Incredibles dealt with mature themes and delivered them in a way more people could connect with. Sure, they were superheroes, but they were also flawed characters. That is a quote by Travis Clark, a media and entertainment reporter for Business Insider. And another facet of this very, very well done film is that predictable narrative structure can still make for fun storytelling, given that there's well writing. The thing that our main character is really good at and makes him happy, he ultimately is forced to repress as he gets stuck in a suburban, middle-class, family-centered lifestyle. But he ultimately finds that what truly makes him happy is not what he's doing, rather the people that he's doing it with. While this is a commonly used trope in Hollywood that we've seen be rehashed and reused dozens of times in the past, this is showing that universal problems are felt by everyone, even people that we can see to be special, or in this case, superhuman. This movie is relatively predictable because it's a kid's movie. It has a predictable ending, but the focus should be on the journey that our heroes take. We never really know what's going to happen next because the story doesn't follow one individual event. It follows the characters, the family, causing the story to take a backseat to the characters. There aren't an unnecessary amount of confusing action sequences in this movie because it is a study of character and of humanity itself more than a display of how powerful superheroes are. And an essential part of telling any good story is setting a well-crafted tone. Now I'm just going to play the opening 30 seconds from this movie, not even watch it, just listen.
We interrupt for an important bulletin. A deathly high-speed pursuit between police and armed gunmen is underway traveling northbound on San Pablo Avenue.
Yeah, I've got time.
So that is the opening 30 seconds. And already we have a very fast-paced action sequence that is putting us directly in the middle of his glory days, essentially our main character's high point. But this movie has it all. It is a fun family adventure that is layered with hilarious moments throughout, and it's all on top of a serious story that delivers an important message. It bounces from comedy to drama seamlessly thanks to the expert writing and voice acting that I mentioned earlier. Now, there are undeniably serious moments, but they are only featured in this movie to make the highs feel even higher. Important dramatic situations aren't just needlessly thrown in there as fodder and filler. There's actual genuine conflict, and mature plot points are given a fair amount of time to be brought up, discussed, and solved. Now, in terms of the pacing, as you could tell just by the opening sequence, there is never a dull moment in this film. Yet it still manages to feel controlled. It's not chaotic or crazy, it's just fast. We are always being introduced to new plot elements, more conflicts, more resolutions, more stories, characters, locations, abilities. It keeps you with this story. You're not left behind wondering what a certain person thinks about somebody else because there's something new going on already. But there's nothing to be missed here. It's all genuinely good content. And the entire universe is brought to life thanks to expert technical work by Brad Bird and his team of creators. This is Pixar demonstrating their technological prowess at an all-time high, which helps keep the audience constantly engaged and entertained. Everything such as the image quality and editing, which are consistently near perfection, always making the viewing pleasant. The digital cinematography, which isn't flashy at all. It takes fixed cuts and fixed shots and fast cuts that allow us to not only see, but process and interpret what is happening at all times. The story itself flows better of it, on top of making action sequences much easier to understand. And in terms of the sound mixing and sound editing, that is years ahead of its time, on par with some of the biggest blockbuster hits that we've seen in recent memory. The crafted world feels alive because of this, and everything makes a unique and distinguishable sound that flows perfectly all together. But is it the greatest superhero movie ever? I still think so. I put it in a list with The Dark Knight, Avengers Infinity War, Logan, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There are a ton of well-rounded superhero films nowadays. And while radically different in their own obvious ways, all of these films have powerful messages and themes that are delivered through expert storytelling that feature some of the most important and memorable characters, not only in film, but in pop culture history as a whole. But when the cards are down and each spectacular work is examined under a microscope, there's just no escaping the facts. The Incredibles not only proved that superhero movies can be masterpieces of art by themselves, it did so in such a way that enabled anyone and everybody to enjoy. So, to summarize, a character-driven story that appeals to audiences of all ages, a tone that masterfully balances the highs and lows of everyday life with that of a superhuman, and technical work that pushed imagination to its limit are all standout facets that make this movie not just memorable but iconic. Now again, movies are key in shaping the majority of pop culture as we know it, from idols to ideas. And needless to say, I think this speech comes at a particularly relevant time, seeing as we're all stuck in our houses until who knows when, just churning through movies on the daily. Hopefully, these aspects of the film's brilliance is enough to convince you that The Incredibles is ultimately in a league of its own when it comes to films about superheroes. And that's without highlighting other undeniably amazing bits and pieces of this work, such as the witty dialogue and banter that the characters engage in, the beautiful original score, the thoughtful symbolism representative of not only characters but their abilities as well. The list just goes on and on. All of these reasons and more ensure that the Parr family will not soon be forgotten.